I'd like to welcome Ben Miranda of La Fuerza to my show. Thank you for joining me, Ben.
Thank you for having me, Robert. It's been good catching up.
I gotta tell you, man, me and Ben just finished having some tacos here at my favorite place, Eddie's Tacos, and he brought his buddy with him, and they're like, Robert, I mean, this food, man, it's like home cooking and cheap. No que no.
Yeah, that was my old stage name back in the day. Home cooking and cheap.
Me and Ben, we have history. Me and Ben here, we really have history. I first met Ben when I was at Graham Central Station, hanging out, drinking some beers, not wanting to be interrupted. I was just having a good old time. And, of course, here comes Ben with a couple of band members saying, hey, Robert, you know, we're from Nebraska, dude, and, man, we're just looking to get some gigs, Robert. And tell him, yeah, dude, go ahead. Here's my card. Call me, whatever. And Ben calls me. Talk to me, Ben. You're from Nebraska, ¿verdad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, born and raised in Nebraska. And I was moved out of there when I was about 18 years old. I moved to Phoenix, Arizona. Stayed there for about 3 or 4 years, and that's actually where I got into the more of what you would call the Tejano scene, I guess. I had a band out in Phoenix, and it was named Redline. And we used to open up for all the acts that would come in, La Diferencia and Eddie Gonzalez and Texas Latino and Ruben Ramos, all the big names of the day that would always make their way out there. And I would always say, hey, you know, what's going on in San Antonio, that all these bands would come out this way, and they would come on their buses, and they'd talk about all the award shows that were going on and all the record labels and radio stations. And so I thought, well, you know what, let me go try my hand out in San Antonio, see what it's all about. And I came out to San Antonio, been out here for, about 13 years now.
I got to tell you, I remember when I very first started working with Ben and La Fuerza, and this is all true. I mean, you know me, people. I don't joke around about stuff like this. When it's serious business, it's serious business. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie That Thing You Do, but there's a part in the movie when the band's first trying out, and they're just screwing up all over the place. They're just simply terrible. Well, La Fuerza relived that movie, The Thing You Do, because they were performing. The first night I went to go see this band.
I remember
Mind
this.
you, I cut the deal with La Fuerza. We talked, let's do it. I'm going to help this band out. Okay, they're playing at Cooleros that night here in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. I go and check them out, and it was a complete disaster for the band. The sound was terrible. The band was terrible. It was unreal. Do you remember that, Ben?
I do remember that. But you know what? I remember the band being very solid, actually. I remember, actually, we were working with our old manager at the time, and again, it was a big gig for us. I remember we were getting, got some people coming out to see us, and some big things can happen. And what happens? We end up going with a sound man who's not familiar with the Tejano industry at all, and not too familiar with the Tejano sounds or any of that type of thing. And to your point, Robert, the system was just horrendous. I think at least 1 or 2 songs we actually had to stop because it was just so uncontrollable with the and that kind of thing. So yeah, I remember that. I do remember that. And I remember it was very That Thing You Do-esque when you came up to us and said, you know what, guys, everyone's gonna have this gig, and but it's about where you go from here, and you guys are a solid group, and like you said, we ended up working together after that.
And I remember that night when it was all said and done, I went up to y'all and I said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Tomorrow's another day, and we'll attack it one more time. I said, don't worry about it. And I didn't get discouraged. If anything, I saw you guys trying to work through it, and to me, that shows a lot of heart of the band members and the band, and you, of course, Ben, when some other band members would have just walked out and said, hey, screw this, I'm out of here. But y'all worked through it, and you said, you know what, we're going to move forward.
Well, the funny part about that, too, is that was one of the first times, actually, that we had to play the Cooleros. It was a lot of firsts at that point. And Cooleros, for those of you guys who remember Cooleros back in those days, that was a pretty popular spot locally for the local bands and that type of thing. And it was even tough just to get into Cooleros, when you're an unknown band or you're just trying to kind of start out. And that was our first gig, I remember there. So it was kind of twofold. We're like, man, we're never going to be asked back. But again, to Robert's point, I remember, again, that was, Cooleros was one of our kind of homes as we would be on the road and kind of just try to fill up the calendar. We would always be back at Cooleros, so again, one of those where the band definitely, the first glance out was not good out of the gate, but, we definitely, came back around and hit them hard.
Once we started moving forward, La Fuerza was working with a brand new CD. Actually, they were still trying to get it processed. They were getting it manufactured and distributed and all that other good stuff. That's where I came into play. They needed some help. And then we went ahead and cut the deal. You went ahead and, mind you, this is the way it is nowadays. It's been like this back then. Right now, because times are tough here in the Tejano market, record labels are far and few. Mm-hmm. But even then, when they're far and few, Ben took it upon himself to go ahead and purchase the material, artwork, and everything. Everything came out of his pocket. And the name of the CD was
Veneno.
Veneno. Talk to me about Veneno.
So again, just to Robert's point, actually, we had a manager at the time, and the manager was actually, fronting the cost for everything, all in his own dime. We had about, I think, 3 songs in, and we're finishing up production on the rest of them. We were working with Gilbert Velasquez. We were working with the promoter at the time who knew Jerry De La Rosa and Gilbert Velasquez, and so got us hooked up with those guys. And as everybody knows, they're legendary producers. And so album came out great. At that point, we needed some representation, and that's where we tapped into Robert, and Robert started introducing us to different people. And upon the working with Q-Zone Records and getting into that recording contract, I did actually have to purchase the rights and everything out from the manager that we had in order to move on. And so again, definitely a leap of faith, because when you're investing in yourself like that, and taking over kind of the rights and the management of your group, that's a big undertaking.
And of course, your first release single was
Ilusión. That was our first one, and I'll venture to say it went the furthest for us, because it was nationally charted back in those days when they had Tejano national charts. I think it ended at number 5, which was the week that they ended the charts.
Yeah.
So that was definitely number 5 with a bullet. But that was our strongest.
I tell you what, speaking of Ilusión, right now let's go ahead and play their first release single of La Fuerza with Ben Miranda, Ilusión, Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.
Quisiera verte conocido, si con el tiempo me vas a olvidar. Dicen que nada es para siempre y no lo puedo aceptar. Otra cicatriz formó en mi cuerpo y me encuentro curando las heridas de mi corazón. Y con un milagro podrás sanar por sus engaños y mentiras que me entregó. Y yo he perdido esa esperanza. Este amor fue pura ilusión que sirve de enciendamos sin querer por estar con este amor. Y al despertar y abrir los ojos es difícil comprender la cruel realidad. Y yo he perdido esa esperanza. Este amor fue pura ilusión que sirve de puedo aceptar, que sirve de conocido, si con el tiempo me
Robert Rivas Radio Tejano, and much more. And I am back here with Ben Miranda of La Fuerza. And I tell you what, that song Ilusión, Ben, one thing that I always remember about that song is that we were doing some radio interviews. We were in Corpus and running around doing Alice, Texas. And I remember driving back into San Antonio, and we already had the lowdown from KXTN in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. We had their schedule where they were going to start jumping on Ilusión, and we were ready for it. And of course, the song is played while we're on the road coming back to San Antonio, mm-hmm. and you guys went bonkers. Mm-hmm. You know, an artist, for the first time, they get to hear the song on the radio. How did you feel about that?
You know what? It's funny because every time you hear an artist talk about their first experience, you know, hearing themselves on the radio, it was exactly that, and that's the cool thing about it doesn't really matter what genre you're in or how many millions are selling or hundreds are selling as far as the track itself. But when you hear yourself on the FM station for the first time, it truly is one of those moments where there's a lot of work that goes into it up to that point. And I think, again, for all the guys in the band at the time, like you said, we knew when it was going to be coming on. They had already given us the heads up it was going to be heavy rotation. So I think even at that time, Robert had it down to the details of he knew the minutes, and in an X amount of hours it's going to be played again, and then in an X amount of hours it's going to be played again.
I got to tell you something here, and this is, I don't screw around, people. Y'all know about me. I'm a jokester and a half, but I tell you what, I don't jump the fence. What I'm trying to get at is when this song was played in my car in the radio while we were driving back to San Antonio, all the guys were so happy. Ben hugged me, he kissed me, and he tried giving me some tongue action. Hey. Said, "Hey, Ben, come on, dude. I mean, I'm happy for you too, but I'm not going to take it that far, dude." But I did think about it. Okay. No, but really, the guys were happy. It was really, really good. It was a good thing for La Fuerza. Yeah. It was a step forward. And really, and it took me back to where seeing them screw up at Cool Hours. I said, there you go, man. There you go, Now, after, of course, Ilusión, what was your next release single?
After that, it was the title track Veneno, which did very well for us on a lot of labels or a lot of stations outside of San Antonio. The third release was Quisiera Andar por las Nubes, which was actually released on KXTN as well. So, when you're in San Antonio, for all the listeners that are actually in San Antonio, it's a very big deal to get new music onto KXTN in San Antonio. And for us to have two singles off the first album be played in heavy rotation at that time, because again, remember, this was 2004 time frame,
right around there.
Yeah, so again, they were still, the heavy hitters were still in the business, and so it was for us to be independents at the time, because actually when we had put it out, we were doing press on it, we were still an independent label type of doing our own press.
No doubt. And the thing about that too is that I had just gone into being an independent music promoter, because I had worked with EMI Latin and Catalina Records. So I'm not going to say I knew my stuff, but I had some very good contacts out there. I had built some good relations, and I'll tell anybody this: always keep your relations, because you never know. Yeah. You never know when you got to cross that bridge. You never know. And of course, so I started working with La Fuerza, and I tell you what, this is a package deal. It's like baking a cake, man. You may have the ingredients and you may have the oven, but if you don't know how to cook it, it ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Well, it started happening for La Fuerza. Yeah. These guys actually were on fire. I was getting them gigs left and right. They were just simply all over the place. 2 hit singles. And then, of course, they wanted a record label. Mm-hmm. They wanted a record label. And I told them, you know what, guys? If you guys want a record label, let's do it. But, once you sign with a record label, that means that the record label is going to control, where you go, take your left, take your right, go front, go back. They're going to control everything. Right now, you're controlling everything once you go with a record label. But they were willing to do it, so I took them down to meet Abraham Quintanilla in Corpus. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so we were doing press for the first album, and as Robert mentioned, I don't know if you remember, Robert, we visited actually a couple of labels. We visited Hacienda Records while we were down there. We visited Q Zone.
Wow, I don't remember that.
And I think we stopped at Freddie, but we didn't actually make the meeting with Freddie, because I think there was some... they were tied up or whatever the case was, but I remember the meeting with Hacienda, and I remember the meeting with Q-Zone, and again, same thing as Robert's mentioning. He was kind of just talking about how we're promoting the album, how we had already had a charted single at that point, and again, that we were looking for some representation from a label standpoint, and at that point, that's when we got into talks with Abraham, which to us. Again, the Quintanilla name, Selena and AB and Abraham, all of them, I grew up, again, going back to the beginning of the interview, where I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and I remember, watching the movie, over there in Nebraska, and seeing all that, unfold. So to finally get a chance to meet Abraham and potentially work with him and all that, that was really something for us. And I know we left Corpus Christi, like I said, on a very high note. He was still going to be getting back to us on what was going to happen and whatnot. But of course, Robert being Robert, right on the phone right away with Univision.
Yeah.
And we actually had a back and forth going there for a little bit with Univision and
we almost, because we were talking to Q-Zone with Abraham Quintanilla, and then of course we had Univision, who was interested in La Fuerza as well. That's how well built up the band. Yeah. They were moving forward.
Good traction.
They were on fire. They caught everybody's attention, and that at the end of the day, that was my job, for them to get attention, and I brought them all that. But of course, the guys were performing well. They were singing well. The hits were out there. And the guys decided to sign with Abraham Quintanilla. Mm-hmm. And when they signed with Abraham, right away, he changed their image. Talk to me about this, Ben.
Yeah, so I know today it's pretty commonplace. You look at the younger artists today with, the way that they dress and the sounds that they're coming out with, all that type of thing. It seems like it's left field. But, to be honest with you, we have a second album out, Apretado, that was pretty left field at the time. And our image at the time was pretty out there. We were the first ones probably to come out with, baseball caps and tennis shoes and all that type of stuff. I can remember, quite a few times that we would go on stage and people would look at us like, what the heck are these kids going to do? And then we would start playing some solid old school Tejano music, and that was really our main thing. As we were genuinely a young group, and so we dressed to our age, but we definitely wanted to sound like a solid Tejano band from the 90s and give it that old school Tejano feel back. And that, so we tried to capture every age group that was at any of our events or any of the dances.
Do you remember the first single that Abraham Quintanilla released for you guys?
Off of the second album?
Off of, I think we were still on the first one. When he took it over, remember he redesigned it.
So he totally, So we already had the album recorded and whatnot. What we did once we signed is they totally, pulled anything that was out in there.
He pulled the artwork. He pulled the artwork and redid the artwork.
Shoot, did a new album cover. Did all that type of stuff and kind of with the new look. And that's really the look that the band has had. Throughout. We've tried to keep a younger, more close to our age group.
So what was the release single that Abraham took on once he took you over?
I think Abraham put out Veneno, if I remember correctly, because I think it was we only had one single in, and I think he ended up putting it out because I remember the singles going out for Veneno. We still have the.
That's right. I tell you what. At this time, let's go ahead and play Veneno. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.
Cuando la mira entrar a la discoteca, todos los voltean y preguntan, oye, ¿quién es ella? Con cabello seductor y cuerpo de sirena, pantalones ajustados y pie de canela, hipnotizó con sus ojos esos de culebra, que poco a poco te traen a bailar con ella. El movimiento tan sexual de su cadera, cuando baila esta cumbia, ay, se ve tan buena. Veneno, es venenosa. Veneno, veneno, es lo que usa. Veneno, veneno, es venenosa. Veneno, veneno, pero me gusta. Veneno, 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 veneno. Cuando la miran entrar a la discoteca, todos los botellan y preguntan, oye, ¿quién es ella? Con un cabello seductor y cuerpo de sirena, pantalones ajustados y pie de canela, hipnotizó con sus ojos esos de culebra, que poco a poco te traen a bailar con ella. El movimiento tan sexual de su cadera, cuando baila esta cumbia, ay, se ve tan buena.
Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. And I am back with Ben Miranda of La Fuerza. And speaking with Ben, man, I'm getting all these memories from back in the day when, really, I've dealt with many artists. I've worked with Intocable, Cumbia Kings, Joe Lopez, Control, Bobby Pulido, Jennifer Peña. I've worked with all these artists, but one thing I can say about La Fuerza, they're very special to me, and the reason I say that is because when I went independently, they were my first project. And the nice thing about this, the beauty of this with La Fuerza with me was that although we were working together, they were really my friends as well. I saw them as being friends, and up to this day, me and Ben are still friends, I think. He still owes me $20, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Friends don't bring up $20 among friends, man.
Yeah, that's off-air discussion.
No, but anyways, let's get back to what we're talking about on the CD, Veneno. Yeah. Now, with Veneno, Abraham took it over, and I kind of like, although I was okay with it, and I wanted you guys to succeed, Abraham took it over. And, of course, he was running the shots, but I was working with Abraham as well. So, at that time, we were okay. Then, we released Vida Mia. Talk to me about Vida Mia.
So, Vida Mia, I think that was the last single to come off of the first album. And mind you, we had, I want to say it was at least 4 singles come off of the first album. That, again, all, got really good airplay. In and around, obviously, Texas and some other states and whatnot. So it was doing very well for us. Vida Mia itself was actually, it was written by a gentleman that I knew from back in my childhood days. He's also from Nebraska. His name's Ray Figueroa. He's a good songwriter and whatnot. So he wrote that song, and actually it was nominated for Song of the Year in 2005. So that was, of course, we didn't win, but, as they always say, it's an honor to be nominated.
That's
but
right.
Really a strong song. You know what, honestly, to this day, a lot of our shows that we still do, Vida Mia is one that is always requested. And from people who are outside of Texas, for whatever reason, they seem to know that song and really like it and can associate with it. So
I'm a person to where I can never have enough, and what I mean by that is that Vida Mia charted in the top 5 on the Tejano National Charts. It just simply kicked ass all over the place, but we could not get airplay here in San Antonio, our hometown. Yeah. But I tell you what, like I said, I'll take whatever they'll give us, but I can never have enough, and I really wanted the song played here in San Antonio because it would have served it justice here in San Antonio as well. But it is what it is. Now, let's talk about your second CD. It was called
Apretao.
Talk to me about Apretao.
So this was the first Q-Zone production that we did. We did it in Corpus Christi with Red and all the group in Q-Zone. Again, totally different feel. Our first album was a little bit more variety, more San Antonio style Tejano. The second album, Abraham kind of had a vision for us to go more the Cumbia King route at the time. Again, you got to think back to this is around 2005 or 6, and this was when the Cumbia Kings were actually going through their splitting off into some different groups and all that type of thing. So I think what the thought process there was we were trying to kind of fill a void of that sound, because that was kind of lacking on the airwaves, and I know that's what they were trying to chase with that particular album. It had quite a few newer cumbia style cumbias on it. We did an album actually for Apretao. I can remember the video shoot. It was shot here in San Antonio at the I think it's called the Friedman. It was the old air conditioner warehouse. It was like an abandoned warehouse.
Actually, you meant you did a video.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so you said album.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. We did the video.
I know Abraham's old school, but album. Come on, dude.
Yeah. So we did the video shoot there, and it was that was an experience in itself, because getting to see kind of how videos are made and all the time that it takes. I want to say we were there for easily a good, I think we got there in the morning and we didn't leave till 3 or 4 o'clock in the night, and it was
I gotta tell you, Ben, La Fuerza caught criticism on the second CD as well, because the first CD, Veneno, was very, very Tejano, very solid Tejano. And then when they signed with Abraham and they released the song, they released the CD Apretao, they went a total different direction. And a lot of people said, we knew that he was going to change your style, we knew it. And a lot of people didn't like it.
It did. It didn't do quite as well for us as we would have liked it to. Again, I think the image that they had us kind of going for, the album definitely matched that. It was more of a cumbia pop type of scenario, where I think at that time in Tejano, like I said, it wasn't heavily supported. And even to this day now, I can hear the newer stuff that's coming out. And I listen back to the Apretao album. There's a lot of stuff that's on that album that sound very familiar to what's coming out. That's the new stuff, the new movements of today. We were doing it 10 years ago, like I said. So it's definitely a tough one. I remember, going into the studio, and Red, who's been a producer for Selena and Mas and all these guys, he's done all the acts. And I remember a good line from him that I still use to this day, which is, Tejanos, they like their music like they like their food. Bean and cheese tacos, man. Don't try to get too gourmet on it. Which is true, because there is a simple elegance to it. I think that's the beauty of Tejano music.
It's funny that you say that, because I interviewed Rick Acosta about a week ago, and he kind of said something like that. He mentioned a couple of his songs on a CD, and he called it Refried Tejano.
That's pretty good.
He called it Refried Tejano. Anyways, I tell you what, let's go ahead and take another break here, going on my break, I'm going to go ahead and play one of my all-time favorite songs, and I'm going to start talking because you're in front of me, and I've told you this for quite a while. Vida Mia. Yeah. Man, I embraced that song. I thought that was just 24-karat, solid Tejano. Mm-hmm. I loved it. It's got the keyboard. It's got a nice beat to it. Just simply an awesome song. So, let me go ahead and play it for you now. Mm-hmm. Vida Mia by La Fuerza on Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.
Vida mía, hace tiempo que no te digo que te quiero. A veces tiemblo y después me desespero. Lo que siento es lo más grande para mí. A veces tiemblo y después me desespero. Lo que siento es lo más grande para mí. Vida mía, es mi anhelo yo poderte demostrarte. No es suficiente solamente con tocarte. Ya no puedo decirte más, mi amor. Que te quiero. Vida mía, es mi anhelo yo poderte y demostrarte. No es suficiente solamente con tocarte. Ya no puedo decirte más, mi amor. No hay, no hay, no hay, no hay, no hay palabras para decirte que te quiero. Que te quiero.
Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more. Back with Ben Miranda, and we're doing a lot of memory lane here, but I think it's time for us to move forward here, Ben. We'll move forward by just saying, do you remember? Let me backtrack here a little bit. Let's talk 2006. Now, 2006, you won Most Promising Band with Tejano Music Awards.
We did. So that was our our first year for the Tejano Music Awards. Actually, I take that back. We actually won an industry award the year before that. for the awards, and I believe it was like Rising Group. 2006 was the actual Tejano Music Awards where we won the award there for Most Promising Band. As usual, we were out on the road working, and I believe it was yourself actually that went to the interview or went to the award show and accepted for us.
I've got a story that I'm not going to get into because I don't like dirt. I don't like starting trouble, and all my listeners know that. I don't like starting trouble, but quickly, this is a man's world, ladies. So anyway, sister, let's get past that. But I don't like starting trouble. Anyways, no, actually, I went to Eagle Pass, accepted the award for La Fuerza because they were performing that same night in San Marcos. But just quickly, TTMA really wanted La Fuerza to perform, but they came to me a week before the awards and asking me, hey, Robert, can we get La Fuerza to perform? And I said, guys, they're doing a wedding in San Marcos. And they said, hey, cancel it. I said, we can't do that, man. We just couldn't do it. So La Fuerza went to San Marcos, took care of business over there. I went to Eagle Pass and took care of business over there.
Yeah. Honestly, I remember that gig actually too because it was a private event, like you said, Quintanilla wedding, what was something to that effect. But I remember the family that they were really good about it. They knew we were going to be winning the award that night. They actually made us a little plaque, that said, Most Promising Band, and thanks from the family and all that type of thing. So it was still a special night, regardless of where we were there or not. The awards, like I said, they've gone through their ups and downs through the years, and so it's still a great thing to support, just as a whole for Tejano music. And I think they've gotten into some new management, event management, and whatnot. I think the last few awards have been pretty stellar. But they went through a few years there where it was they had some opportunities.
Of course, and then after that, nothing lasts forever. Right there along the ways as the La Fuerza and Q Productions went ahead and went their separate ways.
We did. So we were working on our third album, and we did quite a bit of work on that. And that was at the time when, again, a lot of the labels were starting to slip away from Tejano, and a lot of the artists, their contracts were coming up. And so same thing with us. We were getting near the end of the contract. We still had a couple more albums to put out with Abraham, but the direction I think that we were trying to go, and as far as the group, and then just kind of what their thoughts were. It definitely gave us kind of, I guess, room for, how's the old saying, the old creative differences. I think the direction that we wanted to go with our next album and where they were looking to take us, we kind of just decided to part ways at that point and take it on our own.
And mind you, in all this time frame when they signed with Abraham, I kind of stepped back and let Abraham take over La Fuerza. So slowly but surely, I came out of working with La Fuerza, and I had no problem with that. That's business. That's just the way it is. And lo and behold, I get a phone call from Ben. Robert!
Yeah.
Buddy! Good old buddy!
I need your help again.
Help me, Forrest! And
so with the third album, Mucho Corazon, that really was we had done a lot of work on the songs and pre-production of all that type of thing. So, again, we definitely ended, amicably with Q-Zone and with Abraham. Still have a great relationship with them, so again, I can't say nothing but good about those guys. But again, we definitely wanted to continue on the album and definitely get it out. So again, back to square one, like where we were with our first album. We kind of know the ropes at this point. We knew what it was going to take, so we definitely found the funding and the backing that we needed, and we got into it with our own label, and with the help of course Robert on the last end.
What you don't find nowadays, Ben, and I'm not saying this because you're in front of me, but this is the honest to God truth, is that I think you've done pretty much everything the right way. I'm not going to say everything, but it's certain things you have. And one thing that you're doing the right way, but even went far and beyond, is not too many Tejano bands nowadays have their own sound, have their own lights. Heck, Ben even has his own bus for La Fuerza.
That's right.
Mind you, he's got all these tools, okay? And sometimes, like I said, sometimes you can have everything, but man, if times are tough, if Tejano music has slowed down, it doesn't matter what you've got. I mean, if things get slow, they get slow. Ben, what do you think is going on with Tejano music right now?
Well, it's a different market, than when we started out, 10, 12 years ago. As everyone always says, Tejano's dying, it's just getting so, it's been doing that. For anybody who's been in the industry for, this long, that it's been on a steady, slow, year after year. And like I always would tell the guys, even when we first got into it, there's always money to be made. There's always business to be had. You just have to handle your business correctly. And again, back to your point, when we were, steady gigging and a lot of money coming in from different avenues, I would reinvest that money back into the tools that we need to keep us going during these types of times. Because like you said, not always are there going to be the events out there where they're going to have the sound and get you out there and pay for your rooms and all that kind of stuff. So as you're guys are slowing down. And then even with us, we were all in our young 20s at the time. Now we're in our 30s and everybody has kids and families and whatnot. So it's different priorities that come into play now. And so I think for us, and this is just for us, both where the market's at right now with just where the gigs are at and where the events are at, in conjunction with where we're at in our lives, we just have a different priority. So when we do gig now, it's not quite as often, and we typically kind of hold out for some of the more, I guess, how you would say, the bigger events where you're going to get in front of more people. Some of the smaller local gigs, we'll take here and there just to kind of keep ourselves busy and get the guys back together. But for the most part, a lot of us, we have been doing Tejano for quite a while, and we like to venture out into some other stuff. I myself, actually, I like to gig. I have a group of guys, local talented guys, man. These guys have been around forever, and I like to call them the San Antonio All-Stars, man, because these guys know everybody and they played with everybody, man. And they're called the Alternatives, and they do a lot of gigging in and around downtown and in the local area. It's a good mix. Actually, it's very, very close to the mix that you have on your radio station. So just a quick plug for those guys. Anytime you're out and about in San Antonio, if you hear the Alternatives playing, definitely go check them out. You might find me on keyboard and vocals on one night. So
I tell you what, as the listeners, just that way that little plug that Ben just gave that band, if it doesn't juice me up here, I will edit that part. Okay, just understand me on that. It will be edited.
Checks in the mail.
One thing that's ironic about the band is when I first started working with you guys, all you guys were single.
Yeah.
All you guys were just single guys, man. Solteros, as they say.
In our mind.
And, yeah. And then, of course, one guy got a girlfriend, then another guy got a girlfriend, then another one got married. And before you know it, one had a kid, another one had a kid. And I told Ben, hey, Ben, why don't you paint up the bus like the Partridge Family? You can go touring, man. You'll be the La Fuerza family. They can have kids and everything in there and just tour all the Peter Piper pizzas and Chuck E. Cheese's in San Antonio, man.
When you see us coming these days, that's just exactly how it was. I used to have some pretty strict rules back in the days, but these days it's a family affair. So, yeah, we're all married. We all have kids, and,
That's simply awesome. I tell you what, Ben, I greatly appreciate that you're going to be part of my Robert Rivas Radio Christmas party happening Saturday night, December 21st. We're going to have a whole lot of stars. Maldad, Tejano Rose, Bobby Esquivel, Joe Bravo. Who am I missing here?
La Venganza.
La Venganza band's going to be there as well, of course. I'm missing somebody here. Nerdy by Nature. Simply awesome. 70s, 80s, 90s band as well.
Rick Acosta.
Rick Acosta of Texas Latino. See, I'm losing it here, but I can't keep track of everything. Now, Ben has, like I said, me and Ben have worked together a long, long time. Off and on, off and on. Me and Ben had talked for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But like I said, it happens, man. He's doing his thing. I'm doing mine, whatever. But we got back together. I called Ben up and said, hey, dude, how would you feel about coming by and doing a couple of songs? And Ben's always been there for me, and I greatly appreciate that. Tell you what, let's go ahead and close out like this, Ben. What's happening with Ben right now and the near future?
So right now we're closing out the year. Like I said, I've been playing locally with just a couple groups here that I get into, again, off the Tejano beat, more of your R&B and that kind of thing, just from, musically. Got a couple different ventures that I'm getting into with some event promotion that we'll be working with, going into next year. And then also, we'll get La Fuerza. We'll be back at it next year. I have a new lineup. I have some new guys. I have a couple old guys coming back in the mix as well too. So I'm sure you'll be happy to see some old faces, back in the mix. But we'll be getting back into it and probably working on a studio album actually sometime probably later next year. But yeah, that's what's kind of on the horizon for us, and we're checking out what's going on in the scene these days. And
that's awesome, Ben. And like I said, the parte of Robert Rivas, I wish you all nothing but the best, dude. I think you deserve it. You've put a lot of time and effort into this, but and the thing about you is that, like I said, you're always willing. You're always willing to go out there and do a gig, and I understand you got to make some money, but you're not going to go for $100 either, but you're always willing to work with a lot of clubs out here just to get the gig, and that's what it's about, because, it serves you no purpose to be at home on a recliner watching TV when you could be out there, exposing yourself however you can. Now, let's, you know what, I'm going to go and close this out, but I'm going to close this out with a song that you rewrote, an old classic Bee Gees song, something called Emotions. Talk to me about this.
Emociones, yeah. We did it in Spanish. We did it with more of a kind of a tierra feel, that kind of old school vibe. We did, like I said, we did it in Spanish, so I'm sure you'll recognize the tune. And of course with some updated lyrics and whatnot in Spanish flavor. So yeah, again, it was a good track for us. It came out very nice and very happy of it for the last album.
No, it was simply awesome. Anyways, thank you, Ben Miranda with La Fuerza. Any closing words?
Nah, just again, guys, we always support everyone, that has to do with Tejano. It's a small, world when you get into it, and everybody's very good at supporting each other. So again, just congratulations to you and all your success on your radio station. Again, I can't plug it enough. Everybody, it's a really great format. I think it's really right with the times right now. And again, just continue to support Robert Rivas Radio. Continue to support Tejano, because support La Fuerza.
That's right, and we'll see you Saturday night, December 21st.
That's right. We'll see you there.
Thank you, Ben Miranda with La Fuerza. Robert Rivas Radio. Let's tell you what, we were talking about emociones. Let me go ahead and play it right now. Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.
Me dejaste triste y en dolor. Y quien me robó el corazón era de mí, que yo te di. ¿Y dónde estás? Y ahora te quiero, no puedo soñar sin tu amor. Mi alma quebrado de sentimiento, no puedo yo vivir sin ti. En la voz de mi corazón es emociones, no puedo más. Y mi sentimiento me hace llorar, porque yo te quiero aquí en mis brazos. No sé qué voy a hacer si tú me llegas a negar. Sé si tú me llegas a negar. Te quiero, te quiero. El tiempo llegó y ahora tendrás que escoger tu destino. Si tú te pasas conmigo aquí o tú te vas con él, será. ¿Y dónde estás? Y ahora te quiero, no puedo soñar sin tu amor. Con mi alma quebrado de sentimiento, no puedo yo vivir sin ti. En la voz de mi corazón es emociones, no puedo más. Y mi sentimiento me hace llorar, porque yo te quiero aquí en mis brazos. No sé qué voy a hacer si tú me llegas a negar. Sé si tú me llegas a negar. Te quiero. ¿Y dónde estás? Y ahora te quiero. No puedo soñar sin tu amor. Con mi alma quebrado de sentimiento, no puedo yo vivir sin ti. En la voz de mi corazón es emociones, no puedo más. Y mi sentimiento me hace llorar, porque yo te quiero aquí en mis brazos. No sé qué voy a hacer si tú me llegas a negar.